Hi, thanks for joining me today. We're doing a Spellbinders layered full moon stencil set, and it is actually 5 pieces. It's your mask, plain round mask, and then stencil number 1, and then you'll see there's 2 little holes as well. So there's the number 1. I actually have 2 stuck together. That's the number 1, and then that's your number 2 stencil, number 3, and number 4. Number 4, I don't use this all of the time with this stencil set, and I have my paper pre-cut, and I have some white paper and I have some black paper. It's just 11 by 8.5 that I've cut into half, and I'm going to start with the black, and this is the Distress Ink Picket Fence, and I'm going to use the blending tool with a dome blender, and then old paper and dried marigold in the Distressed Oxides. So I'm going to start, I don't always tape my stencil down, but I'm going to start by taping this down to show you a way of doing this, and I'll show you how I do it without as well. So I'm just adding the white layer onto the black. This is Distress Ink Picket Fence, and I'm going in heavily onto the kind of bottom to left hand side, so it's a little bit more solid white, and then it's fading a little bit towards the top. And then I'm going to take my number 2 stencil, and you can see I'm lining up the holes with the holes on the number 1 stencil, so I know that it's going on the correct way. I mean, you can turn your moons any way that you want them to be, but you can turn it like this if you want the coloring to be at the top. But once you do that, make sure that you do line up your little dots. The first one, it doesn't matter, it's just a plain circle. So here I've lined up and I've taped down. I'm using the old paper, and I'm going to now add my second layer. Again, I'm going much more heavy with the color towards the left hand side and the bottom left, and then fading it out. And you will see that this just does give you more dimension to your moon. It happens to be how I like to do my moon. This is number 3, and I'm going in with this beautiful color. I love this color, dried marigold, and again this is the Distress Oxide, and I'm repeating this process, heavily stenciling towards the left bottom corner, bottom of the left corner, and look at that, it's almost glowing, that moon. Look at that, absolutely gorgeous on the black. I think that this moon works really, really well on black. Navy blue, dark greens, dark purples, it would be just as gorgeous. I'm just kind of giving you some ideas of how to use the stencil. So I'm using white acrylic, and I'm just splattering with my feather brush to make like a little galaxy. And I'm also using this beautiful Salvage Patina, which is a distressed paint. I'm going to also add some of this in splatters onto my background, so it's just a little bit of water to thin my paint out, and because it's already a thinner paint, the splatters are much tinier in the blue or the patina. It's really beautiful. It's very hard to show color, the black, especially against a black background, but it really does show in real time. So now I'm going to go in with some white. I'm using my Pixie spray, and for this I'm going to start off with the mask because I want to put color onto my entire background. So I've Pixie sprayed the back, and it's just very light and tacky, and I've just added the mask on, and I'm going to start with this beautiful Seedless Preserve. I don't know if you could see that, Seedless Preserve. It's a Distress Oxide, and I'm using Dusty Concord, and I'm also using the newer color Prize Ribbon, a most gorgeous blue. So I'm going to start by putting the Seedless Preserve all the way around the moon. And the reason I do this is I actually want to see some of this color as a halo around the moon. And I love that I can use my fingers on the mask without disturbing the color on the background of my paper. So now I'm going in again, finally, with the blue. So I've gone from Seedless Preserve through to the Dusty Concord, and now into the Prize Ribbon. Beautiful. I decided I needed some darker, so I'm using Black Suit, and it's the Distress Ink, not the Oxide. I'm just going to add a little bit of depth into the top and around the edge. I'm not really worried about going all the way to the bottom, simply because this is bigger than what I will use if I'm making a card with it. So just some water splatters onto the background. I still have the mask, and just splatter, splatter. And you can see how the oxide reacts there. I'm peeling the mask off. So now I have this beautiful white moon. Let's add some color to it. So I'm using just a simple circle, the number 1. And I'm going to use antique linen as the background color for this. Just beautiful. Again, I've gone dark too, so you can see it's darker on the lower left, and then I've blended it out. Now I'm going to use the tea dye. This is again a distressed oxide, and this is my number 2 stencil. And again, I matched up basically dot to dot. You can see that I'm not taping this down like I did with the first one, so it's just a personal preference. So I'm again going in nice and heavy towards the left hand side of where the openings are in the stencil. You can see that. So it's heavier there, and then it's faded to lighter, just to give the moon dimension. And then this is stencil number 3, dried marigold. Repeating exactly the same process, darker towards the left corner and then lighter as it comes up. And in this one I am going to use this number 4 stencil. So these are like the craters on the moon, and it doesn't have any sort of circular edge, so I'm looking at the colors underneath and I'm lining them up, because there's definitely a pattern to it. And I've got the 2 dots on the top left and the bottom right corners, and I'm just dabbing some of the hickory smoke distressed oxide through there, and you can see it creates these little craters. Super pretty. So now I'm going to do another black one, but I thought I'd show you a crescent moon. So here I'm just showing you, don't put the mask on the top, put it underneath, and then put your full circle stencil on top of it, and you can like lay it out into whatever size you want. Again, I'm going to just take this one down simply because I'm working with 2. So I'm going to start, of course, with the Picket Fence Distressed Ink. This is a white ink. Because I'm going on to black, I want to definitely create a lighter base. But this ink is almost luminous against black cardstock. It's really beautiful. And I'm just using my fingers to take some of the color off, because I want, again, to have that darker to light effect. I'm going to leave the mask on the paper. It still has pixie spray, I should say, on it, and so I'm just going to leave that pixie spray and let it hold the mask down. So there's my number 3. And I'm going to just add a little bit of this wild honey as well, just to make it maybe a little bit kind of more yellowish, or honey colored, I should say. And I'm just going to go around the outer edge on that left hand side. I'm just going to add a little bit of that. And there you have a crescent moon. You can see I've got a little bit of ink on the top there, so I'm just going to get an eraser and just take off. It just comes off very easily. So I'm going to add, with this salvage patina, I'm going to add some stars in the background. And as you can see, these are really tiny, tiny stars. I thought I'd put this color on first so you could see the difference. Then when I add the white splatters are definitely bigger, just because I'm using a heavier consistency of acrylic paint for the white. But it looks really, really fabulous. I can't wait to make a bunch of cards. I'm not going to show cards on here. I'm just going to show you how to do the backgrounds. So this is a white gel pen, and I just like to add a little bit of white on the outer corners, just a tiny little bit to give a little distinction to that moon on the outer edge. And that's a crescent moon. Very happy, very, very impressed with the stencil. So now I'm going to do like a more moody moon. So I'm using distress sprays. So I've got them all shaken up, and I'm going to start with this gorgeous speckled egg, and then I'm going to add in the hickory smoke. And because they're sprays, you can see I've got smarter. Because I'm trying to do this on camera, I just put some paper towels behind my paper. And then that is black soot that I'm going to add in a distress oxide spray. They're all they're not black. The black is not black in this particular instance. So I've really saturated this paper, and because it's so wet, I'm just doing a little bit of drying before I spray some water just around the edge of the moon, because I want some of this color to bleed in. And I know other people have done tutorials on this, and I have no idea what they did, because I'm sorry to say I didn't watch them, but this is just how I happen to do this particular technique. So I'm just dabbing away some of the color just to create a really textural background. So now I'm going to use the number 1 stencil, and it's just the open circle, and I'm going to block off all my background of my paper, my cardstock, so that I'm not going to add color into that beautiful moody gray background. But I am going to still be spraying these stencils so that it's going to be very kind of mottled, and I think it'll be a lovely effect. So this one is Scattered Straw Distressed Oxides. These are all the Distressed Oxide sprays. So you can see just little spritz. That's my number 2 stencil. This is the number 3 stencil going on. I'm going to use 2 different colors. I'm using Bundled Sage at the bottom, and you'll see this is just it's a lovely green, and then that is Shaded Lilac for the top. So I'm actually using 2 different colors on the number 3 stencil, and look at the effect. And when I take everything off, I am very, very happy. So I'm adding some water splatters first, and then just removing a little bit of the oxide color at the back, and I'm going to just spritz some of the black soot on the one side, and I'm going to add some black soot splatters too, and then I will add white splatters, and I'm going to let this dry. I will come back and show you at the end. I do take the white gel pen and do a little definition, not all the way around the moon, just little bits and pieces. So this is another background I created, and I didn't film this because it's pretty easy to just create backgrounds with sprays. What I did was I sprayed the Distress Oxide onto my glass mat, and I just used that blending tool to. So the colors I used here are Shaded Lilac, Black Soot, Hickory Smoke, and Ripe Persimmon. You can see that beautiful ripe persimmon in the background there. It's just, this particular background really looks like a galaxy, like the Milky Way. Really love it. So I want to do a pink moon. So I'm using spun sugar as my main overall color. Again, I'm using the technique that I like, which is very intense color on one side of the moon, and then blending to a softer shaded out on the other side. So again, I'm going bottom left as my darkest, and this color doesn't show that well on camera, but in real life it is unbelievably, edibly beautiful. It's really gorgeous. So it's just an overall color, and it's very hard to see this. I have to almost tilt it so that you can see that beautiful color there. So now I'm going to be using Kitsch Flamingo, another beautiful shade, and this is the number 3 stencil, no, number 2 stencil, sorry. So that's the 1/2, and same technique, and then here's my number 3 stencil, and I'm going in with Worn Lipstick. It's a color that is just, I don't feel is used enough. I just love it. Anyway, it came out really beautiful. Just a lovely, lovely, lovely pink moon. I'm going to add a little bit of the Abandoned Coral, and this is the number 4 stencil. So again, this is a stencil I don't use a lot. I don't use that last one a lot, but I felt it worked really well here with this color, and really looks like a galaxy to me. It's especially with the ripe persimmon in the background there. It's just really, really pretty. So I've decided that it needs a little bit more depth, so I'm just going to take some of this hickory smoke. Yes, hickory smoke is a color I keep misguiding you on. So I'm just lightly dabbing some hickory smoke just on the left and lower corner of that moon. And I will be finishing this off, of course, with white splatters